Hello, everybody. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Just here to, let me turn this off. Just here to share a little bit of how I use IK Multimedia's gear and how I have implemented it between doing hybrid stuff between the studio and live. I think it's important to share that because a lot of times people are just focused on doing live stuff or studio work, and I've been enjoying doing both for a long time. As a front of house engineer, monitor engineer, and in studio work all the time. So I feel that one of the things that I've been doing lately is using the micro monitors, and those have been very helpful. Even when it comes down to setting up mixes for monitors or from the house, whatever works for you, whatever you're doing at the moment, I feel that they really translate very well, and they're actually very useful, and they're very accurate when it comes to what I'm trying to accomplish. Recently, I did one of the projects that was pretty cool. I got to mix monitors for No Doubt, and I was able to prep potential broadcast mixes using these speakers, and they're just phenomenal. They really translate very well, and I was able to not have to keep my in-ears in the whole time. I was able to just take them off during a rehearsal. After rehearsals are done, and I can do virtual sound check, and I'm able to kind of play things back, create stems or create mixes that I could potentially use for broadcast, which was very helpful. Eventually, I ended up mixing the broadcast and using those speakers as well as headphones and different things. But mostly those speakers, and the broadcast is out there, is on YouTube, and you can watch them, and they sound great. It's very helpful in that sense, especially using in combination with Arc Studio. For those who aren't familiar with that yet, it's a great unit. They have it in software form, and also they have a hardware that you can insert in between your DAW and your speakers, and it lets you basically do some room correction into your setup, whether it's a small studio or a larger room. I've been using it very successfully because I'm traveling, and it's very portable. I think there's actually a photo here I can probably share with you guys. I've been using it very successfully in hotel rooms and buses. So as I'm mixing anything, I can just very quickly set it up in the back of the bus or in the front lounge, or if I'm in a hotel room, I can very quickly, basically calibrate my room and make it sound great. To be honest, I started using the Arc Studio when it just came out recently with the hardware. And before that, I was just using the speakers themselves, and the speakers themselves sounded great already. But once I incorporated the Arc Studio, it really, really helped out, basically just to kind of get a little bit of a better, I had a better bass response in certain rooms. And it just made it sound a little bit better for me in certain hotel rooms if the desk was had curtains behind it, or if I was against a wall, or if the room wasn't just optimal for sound. The Arc Studio definitely helped me clean those frequencies out. So I definitely recommend that. The speakers on their own are great. They also have some filters and things you can switch in the back that will allow you to have better bass response or high-end response. But if you want something even more detailed, definitely the Arc Studio is extremely helpful. And I have a setup here that you can see when I was using them for the Coachella rehearsals. You can see the speakers on top of the board. Basically, using my live setup, I was able to start, working on mixes or pre-mixes for broadcasts. At that point, we weren't sure what was going to happen, so I was just building pre-mixes, stems, or things that we were going to potentially send to the broadcast truck. So that was very useful. So basically, as far as those speakers, hands down, I highly recommend it. And I'm currently using the micro monitors, the original version. And I also have, which you can see, I think 3 of them behind me. And there's a bunch above me and all around me. I got the MTMs. I recently set up an Atmos system. And I'm getting into the Atmos mixing process, which is very interesting and challenging, but a lot of fun. So that's what I'm getting into too, and these speakers are working great. And they're obviously currently also one of my references for left and right when I'm mixing standard, when I'm doing standard stereo mixes. So I'm also using them as a reference. They sound great. So check those out. Obviously, you can always go to the website and check that out. Another thing we want to do is, there's been some questions here sent ahead of time. You can send more questions on the chat, and we'll try to answer them all. I see Fixing to Get Mixing just checked in with us. That's Bradley Dean Divins. Hello, Brad. So let me see if I can read some of these questions and try to answer a couple here. Let's see, from Burke Alexander. Is it possible to use your monitors in a home studio, acoustically treated, with a size of 2 meters by 3 meters? The height of the ceiling is 2 or 2.5, and possibly calibrate the monitors with cheap, low-cost measuring microphone or budget class? Well, these speakers, like I said, they will sound great in any room, even before you enter any calibration to it. However, I will not suggest, if you're going to do any kind of calibration, I wouldn't try to just use any microphone. I will try to at least definitely get a system like the Arc Studio, which is pretty affordable actually. For as powerful and as accurate as it is, I will definitely suggest you get one of those. I think you will be very, very happy with the results. It's definitely an investment that any small studio, any well, I guess any mid-sized big studio could do it as well. But if you're in a small studio, you could definitely benefit from something like this. It will definitely feel like you cleaned up a bunch of frequencies that were probably an issue for you before in that room. Let's see another one here. We got, how can you tell which iLoud size is ideal for your home studio? You know, what I find right now is I have, currently around me, I have the MTMs, which were part of the Atmos bundle. And, you know, my studio is it's a mid-sized room. It's mostly a mixing suite, and they work great. One of the things with their speakers is that they're all very compact. Even their larger format speakers are still not huge, they're not gigantic. They're actually very compact in size, and they're very adaptable to the size of your room. And again, because of the way they run their speakers and the way they operate as far as their DSP and having options like Arc Studio, or even some of the speakers have the processing built in, then you're able to adapt any of those speakers to your room. Obviously, if you're in a really tiny room, you might benefit a little bit from a smaller size speaker because you don't want that low-end buildup, but that will happen with any speaker. So if you're in a small room, I definitely recommend either the micro speakers or the micro monitors or the MTMs for sure. Those are definitely a proper size for a smaller room. And again, a worthy investment is to get either the Arc Studio and calibrate it and have it, and it's done so quickly. You have, I believe 7 points of calibration, or 21 points, I believe, and then it's done very quickly, and it sounds really good. Let's see what other questions we have here. Let's see if anybody on the chat put any questions. If not, I'll continue answering some questions from, let's see. Yeah, I see another question. I think this is the same about the calibration. I think we already answered that. Can studio headphones replace monitors? It depends. You know what? it depends on what works for you. I personally, for the longest time, I was just mixing when I was away touring. I was just mixing with headphones, and that's fine. And there's some, you know, companies that make, you know, emulations and things that you can emulate any type of headphone with whatever headphone you have. But I was just using just standard, you know, Sony headphones, and they were fine. They worked great. But once I started using the micro monitors, I feel like I was using less and less my headphones, and I feel like that just tells you actually how good they are and how accurate they are in translate. I've mixed already, you know, quite a few projects in those speakers while I was on the bus, or in hotel rooms, just going back and forth. And then when I will come back to my studio and listen back, it will translate. It definitely translated. It was pretty good. So yeah, I don't think one replaces the other. I prefer to do speakers at the moment, and then when necessary, I go to headphones. But it really is your preference at that point. Let's see what else we got here. Here's another question from Price. I will direct you to the website, and I'm sure there'll be a link coming up soon for that. Would a pair? This is from Andrew. Would a pair of iLoud micro monitor speakers work well to obtain best sound using Hammond B3, to obtain an organ sound using an iPad and digital keyboard for home use? Again, absolutely. You know, like I mentioned before, these monitors are pretty accurate. What you hear is what you're going to get, which is very rare sometimes in the small format speakers. One of the things that is pretty important to say again is that when you move something on an EQ, or you're trying to get something on a particular stereo image scenario that you're trying to approach on your mix, you have to rely on your speakers. And if your speakers aren't right, it might sound good to you right there at that moment, but you take it anywhere else, it won't translate. I haven't had that issue with these speakers. However I EQ something, I can hear it happening. And it's just very accurate. Wherever I take anything that I've done in those speakers, translates very well anywhere. Headphones, AirPods, other speakers in the car. So I've been very, very pleased with that, with the results that I get with those. So that's important to keep repeating, because I know a lot of people sometimes are worried, oh, should I get these small speakers? Are they going to sound good? One of the things that surprised me about these micro monitors is actually the low end. I always thought it was great and tight and punchy. And then actually when I introduced the Arc Studio, I was in a hotel room actually. My desk was literally in front of this big curtain. And it sounded good. I was mixing away, and then I finally said, you know what, I have this Arc Studio. Let me connect it. Let me try it on. I calibrated it really quick. And all of a sudden, it almost felt like I had a subwoofer. It literally felt like the low end got really round, not too loud. It wasn't overwhelming anything else, but it just felt like all of a sudden I had a subwoofer under the desk. So I was able to hear that extended low end, which was pretty cool. So yeah, those speakers are definitely doing great. What do you use as playback when you're mixing monitors on stage? For virtual sound check, I use Pro Tools. I record in Pro Tools. The console that I use is an Avid S6L, and I record everything in Pro Tools, and then I'm able to do virtual sound check and play back via Pro Tools as well. For those doing live sound, you know that virtual sound check is an incredible tool because it allows us to, you know, without having the band there, the band could be done with rehearsal. I could be tweaking and fine-tuning mixes. I could be adjusting reverb length. I could be creating snapshots. I could be adjusting timecode settings for my snapshots to be triggered. I could automate, you know, EQ settings, plugin settings, anything without having the band there. I can literally rewind. I can loop a section and work on tom gates. I can work on things without having anybody having to waste their time or just kind of be bored by, you know, testing things. I can just do it on my own time and fine-tune things. So that's what I use for playback when I'm doing monitors, and that's a tool you can use obviously in front of the house as well. Let me see if anybody has a question in the chat. How loud, let's see, this is from Mauricio. How loud would you use your micro monitor for a small room in a home studio? Honestly, I tend to mix fairly quiet. I would say I probably keep it at 85, 87 sometimes in a room, 90 at the most. It's like I keep it pretty much low volume. I like to mix a low volume. Obviously, that's a lot of it based on distance, but I'm speaking in my mix position. Not too loud, honestly. I would suggest just keeping your mix, at a low level. If you can hear everything at a low level and feel that perceived loudness, I think it's very good. I approach that too, and when I'm doing monitors for people, for the in-ears, I always try to approach it in a way that even if they run their pack fairly low, they can hear everything crystal clear. There's a lot of course, compression and limiting and things happening to be able to achieve that, but to be able to achieve it and also try not to have the artists or musicians hear that compression. You don't want them to hear any of that, but you want it to actually be in play as you're doing it. And like I said, that's an approach that I always transition from studio to live, and try to get that level where they can still run their body packs for the in-ears at a lower level, but still hear everything crystal clear. So that's a good question. Let's see. Oh, they already answered that one. In terms of yeah, so Burka, it turns out that the smallest micro monitors are enough for my room. Did I understand that correctly? Yeah, I mean, if you have a small room, like the one you mentioned here, yeah, I feel like those will be perfect size, that seems that it will work for what you need. Yeah, Bradley Dean, fixing to get mixing. Great front of house and studio mixer. Brad Divins, yeah, he uses them too. He's commenting on this, that he has used them in hotel rooms too to do mixes, and they do translate very well. And if Bradley Dean says it, then it's for sure. Let's see what else we got here. Here's another question. Why no Bluetooth on the new iLoud micros? I'm sure someone might answer that from IK, but my guess and my understanding is they wanted to keep the micro monitors, I guess, more consumer level, and the pros for professional use. So I guess there's two versions that you can choose from. That's my guess. Let's see, will these work if ceilings are only 7 foot? Are micro pro powerful enough for a small room? What's the word for goes good with it? Okay, this is similar to Berge's question. Yeah, if you have a very low ceiling, again, these speakers are very, very well tuned as speakers, as boxes. You're gonna get right in front of you exactly what you need to hear. And if you're in a small room, definitely get the micro monitors. You won't be disappointed, and the low end will be perfect for that size room. I will suggest though, if you get the micro monitors, maybe get the Arc Studio as well. Let's see what else here. This one's from Fernando. What plugins do you use for mastering? I don't master. I mix. However, every now and then, a lot of my clients just want to hear the final product as it's going to be, or they're not going to send things to be mastered for whatever reason. And I just do something really quick that I have in my master bus, and I just insert it there. Usually, it's like T-Rax, all the T-Rax mastering suite stuff that it's been around for years, that I've been using for years, and nothing Nothing special. I just kind of make sure that I bring out the level and do a very light EQ overall, just to make sure it sounds good. Most of the time when I try to do mixes, I try to make it sound as the final product, so leaving the mastering out in case they want to do it or not, having that option. Let's see, Pete Shaw, what do you like best about the iLoud MTM monitors and why? Well, I've been using the MTMs for a short time now, ever since I got them for to get the Atmos set up in my room. And that's still a work in progress as far as me mixing in Atmos, because it's a whole different ballgame, and I really want to do it right. So to be honest, I'm actually practicing a lot and getting things, creating my new mixing template where it actually includes an Atmos routing per se, and then, but when I'm using them if you see them on top, on the left and right behind me, as a reference, they just sound really good. I mean, for lack of a better word, they just sound good, and they actually, again, what I hear there translates. So even in this room, which is small, and I have all these different speakers, and I have a different calibration for all the speakers, and for the MTMs, I'm only using the onboard stuff, whatever's on the MTM as they come out, as they sound. They just are true to what I'm doing. So whatever I'm doing in EQ or stereo imaging or whatever, as I'm going through that process, it sounds as accurate as anything else that I'm doing in other speakers, or even when I go try to listen in the car and everything. So again, they have figured out a way of making this really well and making it translate and be accurate, which is what we want as mixers. Let's see. Suppression, says suppression. This is from Gagan, Kumar. Compressors, so multiband, dynamic EQs. I guess he means like a limiter versus compression. I've used all of them. Compression, multiband, dynamic EQs. I mean, I mostly, have multibands on things. I have multibands on my vocals. I have multibands sometimes on the mix. Every in-ear mix usually has some form of limiting and a 4-band, multiband compressor for any problem frequencies that might arise during a show or during a particular venue or a particular type of mix, whether it's for the drummer, for the bass player, or anything like that. Then I'm able to approach it and tailor those mixes for the in-ears using multiband. On a vocal, of course, to take some of that mud out, that really affects the way they sing because of the whole occlusion effect. So I usually tailor the multiband to do that, take frequencies around 250 on a very wide Q. That's very helpful for vocals. Anytime you have a harsh guitar, multiband. Sometimes I have a dynamic EQ where I have a fixed frequency for certain things that I'm cutting, but if anything passes a particular threshold, then I have it kick in to perhaps, even tame it a little more. So all of these are great tools to use, whether you're doing live sound, whether you're doing monitors, whether you're doing front of house. I tend to do a hybrid of what will be a front of house mix, studio mix, and to in-ears. I always try to give my artists and band members, mostly the artists because of how I'm interacting with them, to try to give them close to what will be like sort of a record mix, for several reasons. One, it's just how I've always done it. I've always tried to recreate those kind of things in their in-ears. But also because it's fun. It's fun to mix that way. It's fun to be part of the creative process with artists. It's part. It takes away the idea that they're wearing in-ears and that they're kind of like on stage and that nervous, kind of because they don't feel like they're wearing anything. It's not just a mix where they can hear things. It's a mix that is very pleasant, where they can have fun, and it's a very musical mix. That's kind of the approach. So that's why I always feel like having that studio background and front of house background has helped me be perhaps a more competent or better mixer with in-ears. So that's kind of some of my approach, when it comes to mixing in-ears. And I use all those tools, multiband compressors and cues, limiters, all that stuff. Whatever it takes to get that sound that you're looking for. But of course, remember, these are just tools, you know, tools that we use just to get to that point that we need, right? So those are things to keep in mind. Let's see what else here. Let me see on the chat if there's anybody asking any questions on the chat. Let's see. Yeah, Burka says he's going to get some speakers. That's awesome. Does the ARC really work in an untreated bedroom style setup? Like, be real here. Yes, absolutely. Here's the thing, as a mixer, whether you have a low budget room or or not the perfect scenario, you're in your bedroom or you're using your family room or your office, and you have to turn in a mix, and this is what you're gonna do. First of all, you get used to whatever you're working with, right? You get to know your room. You know whether your room has a lot of buildup in a particular frequency, and you kind of work around it. You know when it sounds one way in your room, it's going to sound differently in other rooms. In fact, to be honest, I used to have some issues in this room, even though it was built to spec the way I wanted it to be. There was a lot of, really not a pleasant, frequencies, but I got used to it, and I will just work around it, right? And then, of course, you start putting acoustical material. I had a really good friend of mine even help me put clouds and stuff, and all these cool things that you do that treat the room and make it even better. But that's all great. These are just things that make it easier, make the room a little more pleasant or closer to where you want it to be. However, anything, wherever you're working, whether it's in the closet, in an office, in a hotel room, like I said, I do mixes in a bus, in the back lounge of the bus with the generator going sometimes or whatever. Like, you manage, right? So these speakers will work anywhere. At the end of the day, what's going to matter is how you're going to approach it. But these tools are there to help us, right? So if you do get these speakers and you get like the ARC Studio will fix a lot of the deficiencies that your room or that area that you work in has. Because the beauty of it is that because it's portable, you could be, like I said, in your office today, and then tomorrow you're in your kitchen, and the next day you're outside in a park, or the next day you're wherever you want to be, or in a bus, in a hotel room, and every hotel room that I'm at is different every time. So you can definitely use it to help you condition that room to sound better for you that day. And like I said, the calibration takes no time to do. You're up and running very quickly. And on top of that, you also get presets to make your speaker sound like other references too. So you can make your speakers, after you calibrate them, sound like NS10s or whatever, any other type of speaker, so you can use it as a reference. So that's also very helpful. They don't just sound like the micro monitors. You can make them sound like anything else as a reference. You can go through them, right? So you can hear what it will sound like with that. So yes, I'm being real. It absolutely works, and I highly recommend it. Let's see, amateur recorder here. The old version mic in my room is about that. Yeah. Yeah, so that's great. So he concurs there as far as the size of the room. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see. Let me go through some other questions. I don't know. I don't think I missed anything on the chat. But if anybody watching has any other questions, please just throw them in the chat while we're here. I'm happy to answer them if I have the answer. I don't have the answer for everything, but I'll try. Let's see. I'll go back to some of the pre-questions that people sent here. Let's see here. Okay, let's see where we were at. Let's see. I bought a precision monitor. Can I use the ARC 4, or will I need hardware? Yeah, you can definitely use just the software. I guess it'll go insert it on your master bus, and then just remove it before you burn your mix. Depending on how you route your mix, of course. Some people route it internally and record back into their DAW. Let's see. This is from Mauricio also. In what situations you could use low frequency extension, and in what range? I do have a sub, and I usually have it, to be honest, because the speakers that I have, except for the two in the middle there, they have great low end response. But I usually have a sub just to do the very, very low stuff. Just to do, honestly, anything from 60 and below, maybe. Just for any slight extended thing. I don't cross it over at 100 or 120 or 80 even. Like, it's either between, 58 or 60 kind of where I have it crossed over. And it's just for the extension part of it. And that seems to work well in my room. Again, those kind of things depend on your room. But yeah, I mean, be careful with that, of course. Use it to taste, just to make sure. If you have too much, it might make you not have enough when you're mixing. And if you have too little, you might add too much and then go listen somewhere else, and there'll be a very boomy mix. But just use it with caution. But I always recommend having a sub, especially nowadays. Music, has all these low frequencies in it, and you kind of have to have a reference of anything that goes low. So I definitely recommend a sub. Now, hopefully, iCave, I know you're watching. It would be awesome if you had a matching sub, and I'm sure I'm not the only one asking, so it would be very cool. Let's see. Let me see. What's the other one here? Can studio headphones replace studio monitors? I think I already answered that one. Let's see. Yeah, I already answered that one. What is the best way to split front of house and monitors? Well, the standard way, as we've been doing it for years, is with a splitter. Usually it's a 56 channel splitter, and if you need more, then you double up. And it's just a straight analog split, right? Sometimes it's one set of inputs, and it splits it three ways. One to front of house monitors and a record setting, or if there's two monitor engineers, perhaps it goes to two monitor boards. Something that a lot of people do with digital consoles is they share the stage racks, so then they don't need a splitter. So they have one set of stage racks, front of house connects to it, monitors connect to it. One of the consoles usually has to be the main console that is controlling. It's like the master console controlling the gain structure, and then the secondary board, whether it's monitor or front of house, will they have trims and things that they can adjust with it. Or sometimes with some consoles, I know with the SXL, Avid SXL, whoever's moving the gain, nobody notices anything. It's auto-compensating, and it's a pretty cool feature to have. So that's one way of splitting your audio. I know smaller digital consoles do it also. I even believe that the Behringer X32 will do it with their Ultranet setup, or their, I think it's like an Ultranet setup. I think you're able to split and send signals to another X32 if you want. So that's the way we split it live. Let's see, Raimundo, and then do you still have the original micro monitors, or have you switched to the Pros? I still have the original ones. I haven't switched to the Pros yet, but I'm sure that will happen soon. Like I said, I use them all the time. I have them in a little case, and they travel with me. But I wouldn't mind keeping a set here and perhaps getting another set that I could take with me for when I'm on the road. So let's see. Does anybody else have any other questions? Put them in the chat. I think I went through most of them here. Let's see. I know someone was asking about effects and things. So one of the things that I do for in-ears is try to create that space, to try to get them out of their heads, basically. The thing that happens a lot when you're wearing in-ears is you feel like kind of trapped. Everything's kind of like inside your head. So anything you can do to create that distance is very helpful. And just keep that in mind when you're wearing in-ears. It's important that you do that. And if your artists or band members are saying, well, they're singing, things sound a certain way, and they're most likely right. You just got to find that. You got to find the way to interpret what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish. It's always going to sound different for us than it does to the person singing, because we're on the side of the stage and we're not the ones singing, so we're not hearing the occlusion effect. But it might seem brighter to you guys as an engineer, but just make sure that you find that balance for the singer and for what you're hearing. Like, it's definitely going to be different, but definitely don't ignore that request, because it's definitely happening. It's definitely a phenomenon, or whatever you want to call it, that does happen once you're wearing in-ears. That was another one. That was the last one that I have on the page. Can I recommend a nice EQ plugin? Anything from the obviously the T-Rex family is always really good, but as far as live, I'm not able to use the T-Rex stuff at the moment. But all the things that I use, Mac DSP-EQs and any type of SSL, or any type of SSL emulation plugin is usually what I use. Other than that, the board, the console that I have has pretty good and clean EQs built into it. So that's where I stay usually, mostly. Other than that, if you're in the studio, definitely check out all the T-Rex modules and plugins that they have. They're all really good. So, for sure. Let me look, let's see what else, if anybody else has another question. And here's one of the things that I will always suggest, no matter what. And I'm going to put this on the screen because I think it's really important. No matter where you are, always mix with your ears and not your eyes. That's pretty important. We get caught up a lot on doing what do you call it? We get caught up a lot on doing looking at the screen when we're mixing, and it's very easy to see when things are happening, but at the end of the day, we have to always stay true to what we're supposed to be doing, which is listening, right? A lot of times, a graphic representation of what the actual of what's actually happening, it's just a graphic representation. That's all it is. It may not even be as close to what you're hearing, because again, you're coming through speakers and there's acoustical information around you. So you have to use your ears no matter what. I think that's incredibly important. And I'm probably gonna check for a few more questions, and then we should be good. Let's see. Let me make sure through the chat to see if I miss anything. Let's see, Rocker Buddy. What's up? How you doing there, man? Will Castillo, how you doing? Let's see what else. Supposedly, yeah, we already answered that. I'm just going through certain things, see, make sure I didn't miss any questions. I'll stay on for another couple minutes maybe to see if anybody has any other questions. But other than that, I think we should be good. Let's see. No more questions. Right on. Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate you guys joining me for this presentation of how I use um, my speakers and other things while I'm doing live sound or um, working in the studio. If you have any questions besides that, I'm gonna put my social media stuff up in a second so you guys could see it, and you can reach out to me if you have any other additional questions that I'm happy to answer once this is done. And you can always write to me at any time, any moment, and I will always try to answer uh, as soon as I can. All right. Thank you to IK Multimedia for having me over, and thank you for everybody for joining us. We'll do this again soon. Thank you, guys.